Welcome friends to another video, and today I'm going to talk about Oscar de la Renta pour Lui, a fragrance that first came to the market in 1980, so it comes from the macho period of manly fragrances. And this is a fragrance that's very hyped in the community. It's very praised, but unfortunately for me it doesn't work. I have here a sample of 10 ml of Oscar de la Renta pour Lui. And I have to say that I'm very disappointed. I was expecting a lot more due to the hype that it gathered throughout the years. And I must say that I'm very convinced that what I have in this sample is a reformulation. Mainly because I have some big problems in terms of performance. On my skin, this fragrance stays for 7 hours. And that's it. At the 7-hour mark, the fragrance simply disappears from my skin. In terms of projection, it projects really crazy in the first hour, then it projects, let's say, really good for another 2 hours. Then I get about 2 hours of moderate projection and about half an hour of light projection. Then it becomes a skin scent and then it fades away. So let's say I'm not the happiest person when it comes to performance about Oscar de la Renta pour Lui. The composition of this fragrance is very interesting. It has some very interesting notes, and there are actually quite a lot, which is very specific for the period when this fragrance was launched on the market. We get aldehydes, caraway, juniper berries, lavender, galbanum, basil, sage, anise and bergamot in the top notes. In the heart notes we have cyclamen, carnation, patchouli, cinnamon, vetiver, cedar and geranium, and in the base notes we get leather, labdanum, sandalwood, musk and oak moss. So there are a lot of notes in this composition, but you will not feel every single note. You will feel combinations between these notes or just a few of them. On my skin, the main accords are bergamot, lavender, the huge blast of basil and also the caraway. To be honest with you, I don't really like the opening of this fragrance. It's very sharp, it's very pungent, it's very, how should I say, energizing, but in a bad way, not in the good way. It's a huge blast of basil on my skin, accompanied by a similarly huge blast of caraway, and in the background you get a very nasty, very playful, very zesty at the same time and sharp combination between bergamot and lavender. I'm not a big fan, to be honest. The basil in this fragrance is too much for my nose. I love basil in men fragrances. I love Mugler Alien Men for the basil note that it has. But unfortunately, in this one, it's simply too much. And I honestly cannot stand it. It transforms the whole fragrance in something very, very sharp. Very sharp, very, I don't know, blunt to the nose. And it simply gives me it gives me nausea, if you want. In the heart note, we get a very beautiful cedar combination with carnation, which is really great. We get a slight hint of vetiver, which simply supports this combination between the carnation and the cedar, and so the fragrance transforms a bit into something more woodier, but at the same time the same lavender bergamot combo from the opening and the basil are still present, and they kind of ruin the whole experience in the heart notes. And of course, in the base notes, I get, at least on my skin, the main accord is the oak moss, which I really enjoy, which I really like. But my gripe with the oak moss note in Oscar de la Renta pour Lui is yet again, just like the basil note, is too much. It's too powerful. And it takes control of the whole base, accompanied by some sandalwood and also some very, very airy musk. too airy, I would say. Unfortunately, as you can tell already, I don't really enjoy this fragrance. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of the scent. I don't like the performance. And I do consider, although this is a cheap fragrance, don't get me wrong, you pay for it 20 euros or something like that. Although it's a cheap fragrance, due to the hype that I've seen everywhere, in every fragrance community and whatnot, I consider this to be a false hype for Oscar de la Renta Pour Lui. I'm sorry. The fragrance feels a bit synthetic at the moment. It lacks in terms of performance, but to be honest with you, I am not bothered by the lack of performance because I honestly dislike the scent, so I wouldn't like to have it on my skin for a long period. It's a fragrance similar to, for example, I don't know, Dracar Noir from Guy Laroche, Tsar from Van Cleef & Arpels, Yves Saint Laurent, Kouros, and so on. So it's that type of fragrance. But unfortunately for me, those fragrances are a lot better than this one from Oscar de la Renta. This is my honest opinion. This is what I believe about Oscar de la Renta Pour Lui. This is a fragrance that I could not recommend to anyone, honestly, even though it's a very cheap one. So, this is it, guys. See you in the next video. Until then, as always, be safe, be good. Peace.